Welcome to yet another episode of a BBK Unplugged podcast. And today, I'm talking to a very special man, a man I hold very dear to my heart, someone that I've known from when the both of us were in our early 20s. And now we are men in our, 5 decades, if you want to put it that way. He's a man who is very humble. He's a man who is a student of the game of football. He's a man who made his strides and made his mark as a flying winger while he was playing in his heydays. And now he answers to the title of assistant coach of Bafana Bafana. His name is Helman Mkhalele. Some of you know him as Midnight Express. Some of you know him as Nane. Because him and I are so dark, we beat load shedding. I think that my nickname for this episode is going to be load shedding and it's going to be Midnight Express. Helman, my brother from another mud.
BBK, thanks my brother for inviting me in your show. It's been a while that we have seen each other, and It's been a while that, I must be honest, please forgive me. I haven't been following your work, your good work, that you've been doing over the years, So I'm so happy to see you, and I still believe that with your expertise that you have, our younger generation should learn a lot from you, because the things that you always write about, they are more objective. Sometimes I feel uncomfortable to read them, but they prompt me to say, hey, this man is saying this, I need to go deeper to find the truth, and many things that we have said. Actually, in all the things that I've read, of your work, it has been truthful at the end of the day.
I take those words to heart and I appreciate them. Thank you very much, Coach. So it must have filled you with a great sense of pride, joining a Jomo Cosmos, then coached by Roy Matthews, and at the same time having so many players who, as you grew, as you played for Jomo Cosmos, achieved so many things, particularly reaching the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup then. That time at Cosmos should have been a defining moment in your career.
Yeah, it was a defining moment in my career, because when I joined Jomo Cosmos, it was immediately when I joined Jomo Cosmos, to rub shoulders with the late my brothers, Sizom Taung and Phil Masing,
yes,
because they make, my stay comfortable. For me. It became easier for me to adapt, with the spirit that they have and the competitiveness that we had, together. It made me to settle much easier, And I remember when we started by playing in the reaching the final of the Bob Save.
Yes.
Then later we qualified to play in the Cup Winners' Cup.
Yeah.
And then for me it was also an eye-opener, because it was the first time for me to go and play outside of our borders.
Yes.
We played the first game, we played against a team from Swaziland. Then we went on to play teams like Moteme Pembe, beating them where nobody thought that we could beat them. Yeah, and for me, on the hindsight, I think God was just preparing me for an international football.
Yes.
Because it was really tough there, where I still remember we had 16 players. We had less than 20 players that were signed, that were participating in the CAF competition,
yes,
and also in the league.
Yes.
I believe that also resulted us being relegated, because you will travel like 7 days, away from home.
Yes.
And when you come back, you still need to catch up, playing too many games and with a limited squad.
Fatigue comes
then
in,
the fatigue comes
on
in.
The continent is not easy.
We didn't have all the technology to deal with fatigue,
yes,
during that time.
Yes.
I still remember when we went to Madagascar. We went on a Saturday, and we played on the following day, that was on a Sunday.
Yes.
Then we had to wait until the next Saturday, because there was no flight out coming back,
Yeah.
And I still remember when we went to DRC Congo to play Motema Pembe, we had to fly to England, and come back, all those things, they are taxing on the body. But I still believe that it was also making me tougher, because when you look at the conditions where these teams were playing at, and also the infrastructure, the hotel, the food, it was really challenging, the heat, it was really challenging. But one thing that we did as a team, thankfully to the leadership of Roy Matthews and Brajay, they kept us focused, and to focus and try to achieve our goal, that we were actually surprised to reach the semi-finals, in our first appearance, But yes, we got hammered in the semi-final by Africa Sport.
Yes, it was.
From Ivory Coast. Yeah, from Ivory Coast, yes.
Tougher you became indeed, because as you rightfully said, prepared you for bigger things, because when Cosmos gets relegated, then 1937, black and white, Orlando Pirate comes. And you, Mark Fish, and the rest of the guys go on to join Orlando Pirates at that time. Innocent Mngwanga was amongst those.
Yes.
And you find yourself now having gained that experience of traveling across the continent, going through the difficulties, the hostile environments, the food, the pitches that are not great, just going and finding circumstances that are made to be so difficult for you to be able to even achieve a result. You join a Pirate side that then goes on to go and play in the Africa Champions League. And then at that time, you go all the way and you get to a stage of the final again against another Ivory Coast team. And you then play that, and against all odds, you win. Having played the 2-2 draw at FNP Stadium, you go there without a coach. Geoffrey Kilton was left behind. Mkhandawere was the standing coach there. And that day, just that day, for you as a player, what did it mean? What did it represent? I mean, I think when you guys walked out of the tunnel, you must have seen a sea of gold and black. You thought you were playing against Kaizer Chiefs and you were motivated. I could be wrong, but talk to me about the day.
BBK, on that day, for me, when we went up for warm-up, even though we had a struggle, because we had to warm up on a tunnel, because we couldn't go inside the dressing room, because people, they put juju there, and we also had our juju
of course,
special project, told us there was muti in the dressing room, so now we couldn't go inside the dressing room, and he had CAF, because that was a CAF tournament. I still remember the match commissioner, he was fighting with us, forcing us to go inside the dressing room, because they needed to check, the accreditations of players and all this stuff. So, to answer your question, on that day, especially with the results that we got, the 2-2 draw, and I said personally, for us to reach the final, it was a great achievement, we never thought that we're gonna win, or I personally never thought that I'm gonna win, even though I wanted to win. Because on that day, when we walk onto the pitch, the stadium was yellow. It was yellow, and you couldn't hear someone who was 10 meters away from you because of the noise. So, and
it was
also
fully packed 4 hours before the kickoff.
Fully 4 hours before kickoff, and before that, PPK, we couldn't sleep. We couldn't sleep because they organized, people who were singing in each and every 30 minutes, and they were beating those huge drums, passing by the hotel, beating those drums, singing, blowing those horns in each and every 30 minutes until the following day of the game. So we couldn't really sleep.
You didn't have proper rest,
and also to rewind again, BBK, when we arrived in Ivory Coast, they booked us in a hotel. You remember, the clubs are the one, they organize accommodation. They put us in a shoddy hotel where there were lots of ladies ladies that are doing business.
Ladies of the night.
You know, and my room, because those guys, I was their main target.
Yes.
My room, it was opposite with one of those ladies. And unfortunately, and also my room also didn't have a locker. We couldn't lock, couldn't have a locker, And those ladies, they were just greeting us, with those short skirts, that was something distracting, Then the manager by then, may his soul rest in peace, Babu Ngubane.
Yes, Lawrence.
Then he phoned the chairman, and the chairman said, no ways, you guys gonna come and stay with us. I think was it Sheraton Hotel.
Sheraton Hotel, yes.
We went to Sheraton Hotel, beautiful hotel. He paid from his own pocket. Then we went there. But to answer the question, personally, I never thought that we were gonna win because Asec Mimosa has got 2 goals away from home. And 2, we were playing in their home ground with the noise, and we were a bit tired. So there was no way that we could pull out.
The odds were heavily stacked against you.
They were against us.
But indeed, you pulled it through.
We pulled it through. And also, yes, as a team, we showed a great amount of courage and character. And also, we needed the divine intervention.
I think the saves that Okpara pulled on that day, I think the way that defense played with Kevin Lane and Mark Fish, I think the moment when that ball bounced as the clearance, was it Fish? And it went all the way, and that bounce, those 2 Abidjan players colliding and ball falling for
Jerry,
legs of thunder.
And
the ball was in.
And the stadium was quiet.
You could hear a pin drop.
It was quiet. We could hear all of us, Okpara shouting from more than 120 meters away from us, shouting, And on that day, that was the turning point for me as a player. It was the turning point for South African football.
Indeed.
Because we felt the love from fans of all teams, like Kaizer Chiefs supporting us. The whole nation was behind us, and when we won, and when we came back, that star, it played a huge role for Bafana Bafana in 1996 because we started to share our experiences. I still remember sharing with Phil and Sizwe Mutaungo. You could see that they wanted to feel, they wanted to taste what we experienced. So it rubbed onto the team as well.
This is 1995, indeed, a great moment for South African football. Also a great moment for a lot of players because that served as a springboard for the many of you to then get contracts to go and play abroad. And it also had an positive impact in terms of Bafana Bafana because the following year, 96, by virtue of Kenya not being able to be ready to host that edition of the Nations Cup, it was given to us and we hosted that. Now, before we even get to that, you now getting an opportunity, having impressed Jomo, having done so well at Cosmos, having done excellently at Pirates, you then get a chance to go and play in Turkey. And you say it was a significant moment for South African football because it began a flood of us exporting, talent to go overseas. You were in Turkey, Shoes Moshwe was in Turkey, I think Fanima Tito was in Turkey, Ace Kuse was in Turkey. There was a whole community, Steve Kompela, Tebo Komuloi, John Shoes Moshwe was in Turkey.
And John Mueti Linda Butelezi was there, Tebucho Muloi was there.
There was a whole community there. And Turkey, the Turkish league back then was amongst the strongest, not amongst the top 5, but the level of competition was really crazy and it was really good. When that happens, Helman, it's a foreign country, foreign language, foreign food and all of that. Sure. Adjusting to those elements and maintaining your level of competition, your level of playing and showing that by signing me, you guys did not waste your money. That transition from South Africa to Turkey, tell me about it.
Hey, BBK, what happened when I was still doing well for Orlando Pirates and even at Bafana Bafana, then I started to attract scouts outside of I mean, in Europe,
Yes.
I'll say so.
Yes.
Then I also had another offer from US. You know, when the MLS
Major
was
League
still,
Soccer was
yeah, when
coming
the
up.
stars
Yes,
coming up,
yes, yes.
I was supposed to go with Sean Bartlett, Dr. Kumalo, and some of the guys, you know, that were there. So I couldn't go there because Dr. Koza said, you know what, how much are they offering?
Yes.
And also my progression, you know, he didn't think that it was the right place for me to progress in terms of football.
Sure.
And also the money side. Then Dr. Koza said, no, you can't, I won't allow you to go there. And I was furious because that was the opportunity, you know. Then I continued to play to serve the team. Then two teams, that is PAOK from Greece, as well as the Kayserispor.
Yes.
They came to watch, to look for the players, and both teams, they were interested in my signature. Then I would say, because Brajay and Dr. Koza, they always have this agreement, you know, if they sell the player overseas, you know. So on one side, on one side, the PAOK, the top team in Greece,
yes.
I believe that they had an agreement with Brajay. And on the other side, the Turkish team had an agreement with Dr. Koza, you know. So now, here I am. I didn't know about actually the full details of PAOK. And now after the Turkish team has agreed with Dr. Koza, then now they said, no, I need to fly to Turkey. But not realizing that at the same time,
Brajay has also
arranged with it from Greece. And in Greece, it was amazing because that is a top team in Greece. And Rabutla, because you know, Brajay says you buy one, I also give you one free and all this stuff, but not necessarily free, you know, for me to be able to adapt. So he made sure that I travel with someone, the home ball, you know. So so Enro Rabutla, he flew to Greece. I flew to Turkey. When he arrived there, the whole airport, people waiting with flowers, you know, written my name, all the placards and all this stuff, you know, to welcoming me, and I wasn't there.
They see someone different.
Then they see someone different. You know, when I met with Rabutla, I said, hey, Mkulu, you nearly make me killed. He said, for what? He said, people
so they were
disappointed. You know? Yeah, then on the other side, I was in Turkey and thanks to Dr. Koza, because he went there and made sure that I signed all the terms of the contract are in place the way I want and the way he wanted. You know, I would really never forget that. I'll take it with me for the rest of my life of what he did for me. Then when I got there, I signed. Then he left. Then I had to join the team. Staying there, you know, Turkey by then, it was, you know, when you look at in terms of the infrastructure, it was nowhere nearer to compare to South Africa. We were a European team, country, compared to them. Then I remember staying in the clubhouse, where you know, the showers were leaking. You know, it was smelly. The carpet was smelly. It was hot, and the team had already left to Austria for pre-season. Then I'm sitting here, waiting for them for 2 weeks, staying there. Sitting there, I had a soccer magazine, Kickoff magazine. I also had the Bible with me, reading this.
I was hoping you were going to say you also had a copy of the Sunday Times, but it's fine.
So because I flew during, we flew, you know. Actually, we always carry them, but we flew during the week, you know, so you get the midweek newspapers and all this stuff.
So you also had the Bible?
I had the Bible. I had my Kickoff magazine, reading the Kickoff magazine almost every day. If I were to write an exam, I think I would have passed.
You read it from cover to cover.
From cover to cover, you know. Then when the team came back, and unfortunately, no one could speak English. And it was hot. And the expectations from the team, because it was a team that was just promoted, the expectations were too high. And I had a lot of pressure because I was the only international player. So everybody expected me to defend, to create, to score. I remember going to meetings each and every day with an interpreter that really doesn't understand English. Then I will sit in one day in 3 meetings. The first before the training session, the second before the second training session, and lastly with the management.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, like all the management, I'll be sitting in a boardroom, all, you know, people asking, hey, my friend, what can you do for us? Why? No, you must win. You must score. You must create. You must
carry the whole team on your shoulders.
On my shoulders. I said, I would love to do that, but I need my teammates. Then I said, yeah. Then I didn't have a good relationship, BBK, with the coach because of many things, you know.
Such as,
you know, when I was bought by the club, the management brought me in the club. So the coach worked with agents. So if you are not brought by the agent or by the coach, they make you stay tougher. You know why? Because they want to make money.
Sure.
So they couldn't make money out of me. So they would try to frustrate me so that I can be out, so that they can bring their own, you know. But unfortunately, the management told me, said, hey, you going nowhere. We want you to score, to defend. And I said, that's fine. But the trust that they had, I gave it back, you know, because whenever I was playing, I created, I had to mark, I scored, you know. And unfortunately, I was involved with the national team. I never had an opportunity to really to serve my team in Turkey, because in each and every month I had to come back home to play the qualifiers.
Yes.
You know, so I was always absent. You know, whenever I'm there, I still remember we beat Besiktas. You know, I created and I scored. You know, we played against Fenerbahce. Yes, they beat us, but we played so well. You know, we drew with a number of teams. You know, when I left the team, we were not in a relegation zone.
Yes.
But when I came back, then the team was in a relegation zone.
Which signifies your importance in the team.
Yes, you know, but the stay, it was an eye-opener, because I started to adapt in terms of, you know, understanding the culture, understanding the environment. Because BBK, I was playing, I never played on the snow. I never trained on the snow.
Yeah.
I remember coming back from Saudi Arabia when we played the first FIFA Confederation Cup in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And when we got back there, the whole place was covered with snow. I said, wow. It was my first time to see the snow. Then I said, oh, at least I would be at home and not training. When I was still staying at home, then I received the phone call. Hey, Mickey, where are you? I'm home. I said, hey, you should be at the club, because we arrived an hour before.
Yes.
So that we can see those who didn't have breakfast at home must have breakfast, you know. Then they said, no, don't worry, my friend. We're coming to fetch you. You know, actually, they said I must drive to come there. Then I said, I can't drive on the snow. They said, don't worry. We'll come and fetch you. They came and fetched me. I went in there. My first training session, I couldn't see the ball. I could, even though we're using the orange ball, I couldn't see. My feet were freezing, my toes, you know, the toenails were freezing. And when we finished training, I rushed to take a hot shower. Then they told me, said, you don't take a hot shower because it will be worse.
Yes.
You need to take a lukewarm, or normally it's a cold water, but they are used to. I'm not used to.
Yes.
Then it was, for me, it was really difficult. But one thing that kept me going, because I felt that, you know, what I was experiencing in Turkey, in terms of the language, in terms of the culture, in terms of the food, in terms of me adapting, it was so difficult. I felt that I would rather come back home. But again, I asked myself one question, that what if that was my last opportunity to play abroad? Then I said, you know what, I can't let it go. Let me soldier on. Then I soldiered on. Then I started to make friends, starting to know the place. Life became
much easier. You soldiered on indeed, because after Kasierspo there was Ankara Kuku, there was Kozespe, I
Yes.
think there was Malatya as well.
Malatya,
You
yes.
stayed, you endured, you soldiered on for 8 full years.
Yes,
you know? And
yes,
also,
yes, yes.
not only in Turkey, I think you mentioned the late Phil Masinga. He was at Leeds United with Lucas Radebe. Mark Fish also played in the English Premier League. Sean Bartlett
Yes.
was also there at some stage. Benny McCarthy, you know, the only South African to win the Champions League
Champions
with Porto.
League.
He had
Yes.
played at Celta Vigo in Spain as well, in Portugal. He also played in England. Aaron Mokoena, Steven Pienaar. I'm making this point to come back to this now, Helman. You could be able, as South Africa, to call on players that were playing, not sitting on the bench, not playing for Mickey Mouse League, that were playing among some of the best players in the world. And you could see that and the impact that it had on Bafana Bafana. But coming back to this Bafana now, for which you are the assistant coach, we only had Pepelo Stoll, who plays in the 2nd division in Portugal, in the team. And we had Mihlali Mayambela, who plays in Cyprus, you know, in the team as our overseas-based players. We could have held Motiba. He was injured. We could have had Ulail Foster. He's dealing with his mental health issues. But still then, we would have had 4 players playing, for recognizable leagues. Where have we gone wrong? Where have we missed the trick? Why are we failing to export players? And I think there have been that have gone, but they've gone to places that don't make you sit up and say, hey, we have a player playing there. What is the problem in Helman Mkhalele's view?
In my view, BBK, we lost it in 1998. We lost it in 1998.
Yeah.
But prior to that, in 96, when we won, with due respect with the leadership of football by then, I still believe that we were supposed to sit down and say, guys, here is the success that we have achieved. What plans do we need to put in place to make sure that we stay on the same level and we go up? That is what we needed to do. I don't think that we did that, you know, and do the analysis and check how was our achievement was gained, you know. So then we didn't do that. Then we had an opportunity in 1997 where the team qualified for the World Cup.
Yes.
I still believe that that team that went into Saudi Arabia
for the first
Confederation Cup, that team was kept. It wasn't broken. I still believe that
things would
have been different in France, you know.
Starting with keeping Clive Barker in his position.
Keeping Clive Barker in his position, keeping all those guys. Because when I sat back, looking at the team, the progression of the successful team, you don't go into a major tournament with a new set of players. Even though we had good players, but they were not ready for that type of magnitude of the tournament.
Yes.
I still believe that we would have done better, you know. Even though the team tried, would have done better, would have gone into the knockout stage. So we didn't do that. Then, secondly, I still believe that we started to stop exporting players. We started to stop. In 2000, if you go down, there were 16, 15 players. You know, like in the starting 11. You had, like you have alluded, you had more overseas-based players. You know, then you have a few, you know, in the starting lineup, local-based players. Not that you were not good, you know, but because of the magnitude of the competitiveness that we were experiencing overseas, it made us easier to wrap it positively onto the young local-based players.
And the pool was broader.
It was broader. So when we started to do that, not to export the players, then it started now to kill us now in terms of getting players that are used to high level of competition. And now when players are called, where you have more local based players, because they are not used to experience, you know, a tough or challenging environment. Yes. They are not used to it. Then they easily break.
It also coincided with South African teams not doing well also at CAF level. Because after your Cosmos, you also had the Pirates, you also had a Chiefs winning the 2001, Mandela Cup, back then. And you had a Sundowns also that actually qualified and reached the final when they lost to Al Ahly, coached by Ted Dumitru then. And then sporadically you would have your Black Leopards going into the quarterfinals of the Confederations Cup, Pirates in 2013 at the final of the Champions League, and they did it again in 2015, the Confederations Cup. You've had Super Sports going there, but it has not been a consistent presence at that level, because when you are able to do that with not just one club, as currently is the case now with Sundowns, if you have more players, more South African team playing and competing at that level, this AFCON that you and Mkhulu Hugo Bruce have just come back from, and these brave warriors that were able to get a bronze for the first time, like when in 24 years, that is something that needs to be addressed. How do we do that?
How do we do that? It's for us as football people to swallow our pride.
How do we do that?
We swallow our pride by saying, first and foremost, this is how I see it. Like I said earlier, that we lost a great opportunity as the nation when if you look our how can I call it? Our steady decline. You look at 96, we won gold medal, 98 silver. 2000 bronze, group stage. Or quarterfinal, and then so now
and not even qualifying,
not even qualifying. So that was the time where we're supposed to say, hey, what is going wrong? Yes. Rather than focusing on the coaches, rather than focusing on the players, because there is this mentality that I've been observing, whereby when you are in a national team for a longer time, people, they get tired of your face. They don't look at what you do, they look at your face.
Oh, yes.
Because I still remember with the 96 team in 1997, one of the comments were saying, this national team is like a club now. You understand? It's like a club now. Yes, it's a club. Yes, you can call it a club, but and that is good for the team, and it's good for social cohesion, it's good for the competitiveness, because those players have experience,
develop telepathy and all those things. If they can still perform, why not?
And the team was performing. We played well. We played well in Saudi Arabia, but because of, I don't know where, this is what I also feel, like the point that you have mentioned, that if I'm not there, it means the team is not complete. So those are the feelings that I have. But I feel that we missed that great opportunity, and be critical on ourselves. Said, guys, we have been, going down. Why is our football declining? We needed to have to establish. I mean, we have PSL. We have, the biggest league in the league. We are one. I mean, in the continent. Yes. We should be having in working with SAFA and say, hey. Let's bring the football experts, to say, can you please or establish like a study group that will compile the progress of the league in comparison with other top leagues in the world, and see where we're going, in terms of our league on the field, because our league, I would say it's the best league, I was even sitting yesterday watching, the league games. I said, wow. You don't see these things in Ivory Coast. You don't see how they televise the local league. You don't see it in other countries. But here you see it. But now, what we're supposed to do, to say, guys, let's have a progress report of what is happening on the field in order to maintain that standard. I believe that we missed that opportunity.
How do we correct that?
We correct it, and now I feel that God is giving us as a country an opportunity to say, let's swallow our pride, everybody who is involved in football, and say, gentlemen and ladies, let's sit down now. Let's take stock. It was proven before, and it is also proving itself right now. Myself and players from Kaizer Chiefs, players from Orlando Pirates were present at club level in African tournaments or club tournaments. We were present. And this time around, it's the same thing. Even though now we have more Sundowns players. We say, look, we have Sundowns players that are consistently involved in African club tournaments. So now it means there is something that is positive that you can use. How can we support our teams to make sure that they consistently participate, at least reach the later stages of these club tournaments in Africa? Then two, when we do that, when our players starting when our players starting to get exposed in such an environment, what happened? They get now attention, or they will draw attention from international clubs. You know, international clubs where our players will be exported, you know. And also I feel that we shouldn't be scared to export our players. We don't overprice them, you know, because sometimes I feel that here in South Africa, we have our own prices, you know, or market rate that is not internationally, you know, like that is not equivalent with the international standard, you know. So we find some of our players, we overprice them, we ask for 50 million, and when you go and do your research overseas, you find that that player weighs far less than that. Then now we keep our talent, and instead of exposing it, because when you expose it, when they go out there, they learn. We're able, as national team, we bring them back with that type of experience that will add positively. So what we need to do now is to make sure that we encourage more of our teams to participate. You know, I know it's financially draining, but we need to find means and ways, you know, that can means and ways to make sure that our players, they get this competitiveness.